Hi there, I'm Carrie Ellis, author of 21st Century Superhuman. This is our 21st Century Superhuman show, and today I have with me Peter Moon. Hello, Peter, how are you today?
I'm very good, thank you. Nice to be with you again.
Yes, it's wonderful. I love our connection. And Peter, you are a prolific author. I have read several of your books. They're amazing. They're told in story style, but about discovering these ancient sites in Romania in this time of disclosure when so much is going on and we're learning about what happened in our past, what happened in our history that brought us here that we're waking up to now, and is helping us give birth to an awakened civilization. I know there's so many, I've traveled around the world teaching 21st century superhuman and plasma technology in the last year, even going as far as South Africa. And everywhere I go, I meet people who have the brightest eyes, and I know everyone has these wake up switches going on because of the energies coming into the planet. So we're preparing ourselves to take the steps into the next phase of a more advanced civilization. And sometimes it seems crazy. How are we going to break out of this old system that has sort of been like a slavery system for thousands of years? And how are we going to build anew? And I know that you were just at the Agartha conference in New York City, which is amazing. And I'd love for you to tell us about that. Tell us, I know some of our listeners know what is Agartha, but please enlighten us and tell us, Tamarinda, who's a beautiful woman who came from Agartha to transmit information to us, was at this conference, and this was kind of like a coming out for this level of dimensionality, sharing with us some very important things. So love to just hear whatever you can share with us, whatever vision and sense of this you have. My friends who were there were telling me it was a great transmission, a great download, that it felt like higher heart energy than they had ever experienced. So very beautiful.
Well, thank you. It was called the Agartha World Symposium. It took place in Garden City, New York, which is on Long Island. And Agartha is defined differently by different people. But it basically refers to a world in the inner earth, a world that is referenced to what might be termed the inner earth. It is another world. It is not like the world above the earth. And there are different aspects or interpretations as to where does the actual earth begin and end when you go underground. Is it an alternate dimension? Is it an inner world, or both? It's not my job to make an assignation or determination on that.
Well, Peter, I think the more we understand quantum physics, and in quantum physics are these theories of parallel dimensions, I think we're entering a scientific age where many of us are beginning to understand.
Well, many people accept that, but I'm just saying I don't have a judgment.
That's okay, that's fine.
But I have not been to Agartha as far as I'm conscious of.
Okay.
I have been to deep caves in Romania, but I have not been into Agartha per se. Agartha.
You feel the caves in Romania were another dimensional level, took you to another dimensional level?
Well, you could say that. But anyway, to stick to the subject at hand, Agartha refers to the inner earth and is defined by Tamarinda. Shambhala is the capital of Agartha. Okay? Some people use the names interchangeably. Some people in the past have said one is the good guys, one is the bad guys. So what I'm saying is there are different assignations as to what its character and quality is. But Tamarinda is of Agartha, she will tell you, and Shambhala is the capital, which she mentioned this during the event. Now, what is important here is as to how this conference came to be. Of course, it might not be known, but Tamarinda is my mother-in-law, okay? And I have realized at the conference I have married into the most mysterious family in Transylvania.
Wow, that's awesome, beautiful, amazing.
Yes, it happened. But the way it happens is that I was basically sent, in quotes, to Romania in 2008 by Dr. David Anderson, who had come into my life on the eclipse of 1999, major eclipse, full solar eclipse in 1999, and he visited me right after that eclipse, or he was on the eclipse. He visited me afterwards and said that he wanted to get me to Romania.
And he's a time travel expert, right?
He is a time travel scientist, a time control scientist, and is actually can slow time down and speed it up and can effectuate time travel.
And you also feature him at your website, which includes information on time travel. What is that called?
Well, my website, timetraveleducationcenter.com, you can look at 7 videos, free videos that will explain the simple math and physics of time travel. It's at a junior high school level.
Yes, they're very good.
Although it may take a few times through to get it, because it certainly took me a long time to get it. However, I was not dealing with such easy in-your-face instruction as I have provided. So this is a great breakthrough in terms of understanding time. If people want to subscribe to the site, they can also see videos on the time reactor and explaining the time reactor and how it works on a very simplistic, abstract basis. Now, that Dr. David Anderson actually was interested in the Montauk project.
And we'll put that link under the video. I'll just say that so people can find you.
Okay. David Anderson had signed up for my newsletter, the Montauk Pulse. Is a quarterly newsletter which I still put out, available. It's via skybooks.usa.com. And David was interested in all things about time travel. He had a huge comic book collection. He was creating a museum for time travel. He had a time travel research center on Long Island. Now, I won't go into all the drama that occurred around the time travel research center, but it basically had to be shut down for security reasons. He went into the security business for 5 years, told me he wouldn't be able to work with me for 5 years. This was in 2003. 5 years later, he invites me to Romania. Now, when I got there, he was hoping to explain, I was hoping he would explain a lot of things, not only about his work, but about the scenario in Romania, which had been highlighted in my life by a book that is now published by my publishing company, Skybooks USA, again, at the Skybooks USA website, skybooks.usa.com website. The book is Transylvanian Sunrise.
Yes.
So I published this, and this is a book about a chamber discovered beneath the Romanian Sphinx. It's in the Bucegi Mountains of Romania, near the border of Transylvania. And it is basically a holographic station that is very mysterious. It can show you holographic projections of the history of the world according to your own reference frame. It'll read differently for you than for me. There are 3 tunnels in there that go to the inner earth. Right now we're working on the translation of his 5th book, which is called The Inner Earth, the 2nd tunnel. The 1st tunnel is a book called The Mystery of Egypt. The 3rd tunnel is the most interesting and most mysterious. He doesn't write about that, but that goes into the inner earth itself. Pardon?
Who is this that wrote these books, Peter?
Radu Sinamar.
Right.
That's a pen name for somebody who's in the Secret Service of Romania.
Got it. Yes, and I've read about him in some of your books. Really amazing information.
He's a very interesting character. Now, to cut it short, to get to what the magic of this conference was about, when I got to Romania, David was not able to tell me anything. He was under non-disclosure agreements and this sort of thing. And he basically said that he would release some information at the end of the year, which he did do, which is that he was now back in the time travel business. And he had formed the Anderson Institute and was doing time travel again, which would eventually result in a couple of years of full-scale level where human beings could go into the time reactor and experience time travel. So I don't have more details on that. If I did, I would share them with you. It's all very non-disclosure oriented. However, what I learned in Romania, because I got to meet the cream of Romanian academia, anywhere from neuroscience to complexity studies to astronomy to medicine to the psychic arts.
Wow.
Because in Romania and in the communist bloc countries, of the old communist bloc countries, they were not prejudiced about psychic influence. Like they would have the psychic department right next to the scientific department. They would utilize both. Whereas they were not anal retentive on the subject because it's a part of life. So in any case, and David was the one I
told me the other day that there's so much rich energy in Romania because of these ancient systems that tap into other dimensions. He said there are stories that people used to be able to just go out and gold would be coming up through the ground because there was so much just life energy, creation energy there, and they hadn't suppressed it.
One of the reasons for that is the huge gold deposits in Romania, in Transylvania specifically. And I was told about this area by the professors, by the metaphysical people, that the most sacred part of Transylvania, and if you wanted to understand Romania, you had to go to Transylvania and see this area called Sarmizegetusa, which is ancient stone sanctuary with stones, and there's been a recreated what's called the solar wheel. You have these big wood stanchions sort of sitting up there. They create sort of a sonic signature, and it's a very energetic spot. And
I think energetic is the word, because a lot of times when we think gold, people are thinking treasure. And I've learned to think of gold as something that holds higher frequency energies. Wouldn't you?
This is the whole point. And there has been a smuggling industry in this area going back to the communist days. But what the ancient people of Transylvania, who were known as the Daks or the Dacians, they would give gold to their enemies to defeat them. This was their strategy.
Wow.
The Romans took at least 200 tons of gold out of Transylvania, and look what happened to them, you see. So it may not be a strategy that would work overnight,
right?
But they barely touched the gold reserves. Now,
they just understood that it was the energy of higher consciousness or higher frequency.
Gold is superconductivity. Yeah. It's like people use copper to conduct electricity. Better conductor is silver, and a better conductor than silver is gold. And when you are in the presence of gold, it will make your brain function faster and quicker.
Wow, interesting.
And this is just a, something that has been noticed. So there is a super consciousness in this area. So anyway, the first thing I encountered, my first encounter in Romania, really, that once we got settled, was a beggar came up to me. And he was a very non sequitur beggar. He was almost like sort of dancing like a fool. He was not poorly dressed, but he was begging. And it took me a while to figure out that he was begging because I didn't speak his language. And I didn't give him anything because I didn't have his currency, and I was the purser or treasurer for the trip. I had two other people with me I was looking after. I had money, you know what I mean? I didn't feel it prudent to be giving out the money. So in any case, I would later learn from one of the people I was with on the trip. Tantra Bensko would send me a website about the tradition of begging in Romania. And it is said that when you do come, this is like per legend, when you come to Romania, you will be approached by a beggar. And it is really not a beggar. He is in disguise. And he is a part of beings from the inner earth that are known as Solomonari. Solomonari is like the word Solomon. And it's easy to make a case that King Solomon was named after the Solomonari because they represent magic and deep initiation. And Solomonari is like sun and moon, that of the sun and the moon. So Sol is sun, Mon is moon. So anyway, the Solomonari will disguise themselves as beggars, shepherds, or sheep. And you have the tradition of the Hyksos, which are the shepherd kings, which were, I guess, emulated or co-opted into the society of secret magicians that Aleister Crowley was a part of and championed the shepherd kings of Jerusalem, the shepherd kings of Egypt. But the shepherd was the most exalted of characters in this, the shepherd king, more so, because he controlled the commerce, which was the sheep. So anyway, the shepherd, they will appear as shepherds, they will appear as sheep, they will appear as beggars. And when they appear as a beggar, they're testing your heart. They're testing your heart and the generosity of your heart. And if you give to them, they will open the heart of Romania to you. So I learned this and I said, wow, okay. So anyway, I learned this when I got, well, when I learned about Sarmizegetusa, the holy spot of the ancient Transylvanian, and everybody encouraged me to go there. After my first year, I planned to take a trip back there. And the scheduling of the trip was very difficult. It was only through the friendship of a young lady I had met there, Nicole Vasilkovsky, that she volunteered to take me to Sarmizegetusa, which she had never been, and because I needed a Romanian to help me. So she volunteered, and we had quite an adventure with another friend of hers. And it was an adventure, and we got there. But what I was also told before that is you must spend 3 days there. I could not spend 3 days there because I had to kind of go with the flow, so to speak. I ended up staying in a monastery because that's what she arranged. I would not have chosen a monastery. She was very religious. Mm-hmm. And so in any case, I got to Sarmizegetusa. It was quite an experience. But it took me, that was 2009. It took me 3 years to get back. The next year I went to Bulgaria. The year after that, we went back to the Sphinx with my Bulgarian friends. But on that, it took me 3 years to go back with Jeanette Crowley. She had asked me to come on her trip. She does trips across the world. And there, I convinced her to go to Sarmizegetusa and to take Dracula's castle off the tour.
Now, is she related to Aleister Crowley?
We don't know. No. She doesn't know. Right. There's a lot of Crowleys.
Maybe a few generations back.
Yeah, but she's a very instrumental character in getting me back there, and a very nice lady.
Nice.
She's not sinister in any way. But so anyway, I could, we went there and we had, an experience, but it took me the following year when one of the ladies on the tour, who also does Jeanette's tours sometimes, Vonda Osman, she saw the importance of this place and says, we need to go back there. So we went back in the year 2013. And in 2013, this is when I met Tamarinda.
Okay, and tell us again which place this is that you went back to.
Sarmizegetusa. Okay. It is the capital, the sacred capital of Transylvania.
Okay.
And it is actually the whole area. There's a sanctuary that's left now, but there's ruins upon ruins under the area. Over it are huge gold deposits. Pyramids have been found there with ground penetrating radar underneath it. And this is a huge area of golden tunnels underneath.
Can we join you on a trip there, Peter?
We can arrange it. We can talk about it.
Sounds like fun.
And we can talk about it indeed. And this is a very incredible area. There's a book called The Secret Parchment, the 5 Tibetan Initiation Techniques, which is Radu Sinemar's 4th book. And I participate in the book. I talk about my adventures in Romania as well to complement it. He enjoys reading about my adventures in Romania. But the thing is that this area is where I met Tamarinda. She had contacted me before I left, and I would eventually, and I would meet. The way I would be introduced to her physically was I'm sitting in this cafe patio area of the Cotizo Hotel, where I'm very friendly with the owners. But when I first went there with Jeanette, I didn't know of this place. I didn't know there were any such places near the area. And I discovered that I was actually a legend in this land because of the books I had published and contributed to.
And are your books published in Romanian as well?
Yes, yes. But specifically that I was doing work in this area. I am bringing out their own ancient energy.
Very cool.
And this is why Tamarinda came, because, see, when her student, Teo, who is now my brother-in-law, he came to the patio with this other man, and Londa says, "Who are those men?" I just said, "They're Solomonari." I could recognize them. I knew this. Indeed, I was right. I didn't know who they were, but I could recognize them. They're Solomonari. They came over to me and invited me to another hotel, which I had to decline. And they had all these people waiting for me, and I felt very bad about it when I learned about it, but I was sort of obligated to this tour. My schedule, my time was accounted for. And so anyway, Tamarinda came over, and I met her in the parking lot, which was very dark. And when I faced her, I could feel something behind me. And I turned around, there was nothing there. And I told her, she walked over to the exact spot. She could feel it. There was a spirit looking at me. And we would have later a polite disagreement about the nature of the spirit. She thought it was dark. I felt an angelic host. Later, that would be confirmed by a friend of mine at Sarmizegetusa who would see my whole energy change, and that I would have to integrate all of this energy.
Nice.
People see a lot of orbs around this area. So anyway, this was a very special trip in which I would have people from all over coming to this valley to basically be there because I was there. Bulgarians, Romanians. My old friend Nicole showed up, who had been with me there 4 years earlier.
Wow.
And then when we get to Sarmizegetusa the next day, there would be other people that I would meet that shouldn't be there. And it was really a wonderful, wonderful experience.
Nice.
And this would follow forth with this Agartha Symposium. It would be similar. But anyway, I would, at Sarmizegetusa, I would meet this beautiful young lady, Paula, we would say, they would say Paula. And we would meet there on the very grounds of this sacred, and we would, later become husband and wife. We've been married 2.5 years now.
Beautiful.
So you might say that, but before, on the trip with Jeanette, that was a year earlier, I found myself a beggar at Palace Castle, the same place I'd seen the beggar earlier. I gave him some money, and he blessed me to high heaven. I think he was blind. He blessed me up and down sideways. And so I did the protocol, and you could say Transylvania has not been, couldn't be any nicer to me anymore. Give me its blessings with a very beautiful woman. And so I followed the protocol. Now, what's interesting about this experience, when you read Radu Sinamar's books, he does not mention the Solomonari once. He does not mention Zalmoxis once. Now, Zalmoxis is the most famous god of Transylvania and Romania. He is the patron god of Romania. And Zalmoxis was, by legend, historical legend, initiated in the caves of Transylvania for 4 years, where he would transcend from a human to a god. And
cool.
His work is the prototype. He taught Pythagoras. His work is the prototype for Moses, Judaism, Christianity, and the Zoroastrian religion.
So it sounds like he was there potentially being overlit from other dimensions, raising his own frequency of being in that time-space continuum.
And it occurred in Agartha, in the home of the Solomonari.
Beautiful.
Now, what is very evident in reading these books by Radu Sinamar to me, and in the fourth book, they find this huge gold bed underneath the Sarmizegetusa area. And it says, Creo Salmas. They translate it. They go to all these universities and have it translated. It says, Creo Salmas, this is where the worlds unite. And Creo is basically, I go into it in the book, I analyze it. It's basically, KR means chronos or time, and 10 can refer to, Io can refer to ancient god, but it refers to the creation of time where all the worlds unite. Not the worlds unite, this would be all the different worlds. Now, so anyway, it is as if Radu is carrying out the function of the Solomonari, the people from Agartha, okay? In the book, or in his private letters to me, not in the book, I don't think he sits in the book, that his boss, Caesar Brad or Cesar Brad, goes into the inner earth to become an ambassador to Agartha, an ambassador to the beings in the inner earth. He does not call it Agartha. Now, Tamarinda is a general in the Romanian army. She studied under Hermann Oberth. Hermann Oberth was the father of rocketry, modern rocketry. He was the mentor of Werner von Braun. He was from Transylvania, in the city of Sibiu. Rocketry in Transylvania goes back to the 1500s. There are documents that show it. I showed these on the website. I mean, you can find them online. And he was, there's a big part of, or a certain part of Transylvania that is Germanic. It goes back to the Teutonic Knights. They escaped from the area of the Middle East when they were beaten by the Muslims, and they went into Transylvania and defended the Hungarian kingdom. So there's a German contingency that goes back into antiquity. But anyway, in any case, so Tamarinda she speaks German, she speaks Romanian. Her English is not so good. She's learning English. She's better at it than she was years ago. And so she's got a strong connection to Germany and a strong connection to Romania. Her father is Hindu. He looks very Hindu. He's passed away.
Wow.
But she looks, blonde, and she didn't inherit the dark skin.
I heard that she said she has another body besides the one we see her in.
Well, yes, one of my friends has seen that body, and yes, this gets more into the paranormal aspects.
Yes.
But so anyway, she basically has hosted me on my trips to Transylvania.
Nice.
And she had actually seen, when she first met my wife, she saw me in her aura, and she had to find me. I don't think she'd heard of my books, but she would eventually find my books, and she would read these to her class. They would be read. My Teo, who's now my brother-in-law, would read them in Romanian or in English, and he'd speak them to Romanian to the class. I would eventually lecture before the class, and he would translate into Romanian for me.
I'm just getting how wonderful it is that you actually have been drawn to do all this exploration in Romania, obviously part of your soul mission or journey here.
10 trips I've made.
And then you've been able to reveal to those people, to awaken them to their own history and higher knowledge.
The audience in Transylvania was the most alert and attentive audience I've ever spoken to.
Wow.
You could feel their souls responding.
Beautiful.
The opposite to that would be speaking to a library crowd of very old people. Would be the opposite of the least attentive.
I've had those experiences.
But in any case, so anyway, she was coming to do this event because she does events all over Europe. She's very popular in Europe, but she's never been to America.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
She does healings on people with frequency generators, and she has her own clinic. She is also, besides being a general, she's a licensed psychiatrist in Romania. She's very credentialed, but her passion is the spirit. And like one of her jobs in the military was to look at aeronautical equipment and evaluate it and put spirit into it. And this is, Henry Coanda is one of the most famous people from Romania. If you go to the airport in Bucharest, it says Henry Coanda International Airport. Well, he was a famous aeronautical engineer, inventor, but he could not get the equipment to work until he went to Tibet and learned how to put energy into the aeronautics. This is a Romanian, and he's the most esteemed aeronautical engineer. So they have a totally different mindset than we have in America. So in any case, she had been planning this event for 10 years. Now, 10 years ago, I had not even been to Romania. So basically, when she said she was going to come to this event, yes, I was going to host her. She was going to stay at my house. But she asked me if I would speak at the event. And I said, yes, I will speak, but don't promote me as being at the event. Because promotion of my name in the past has led to problems.
I also noticed somebody mentioned that she had put Montauk, New York as where she lived on Facebook.
Well, but yeah, people always put humorous places.
Right.
You know.
Like,
and she did get to go to Montauk. I took her to Montauk, and I took her to see Preston Nichols 2 days ago, who lives in upstate New York. So this was a full, what she said, ending of the Philadelphia and Montauk projects. Now, so anyway, I said I would speak at the event. She also asked, would I ask if Dr. David Anderson would speak at the event? So I said, send him an invitation. She sent him an embroidered invitation. When I say embroidered, it was embroidered internet style. From the ambassador of Agartha. David called me in early June to talk to me, saying he hadn't been in touch in a long time, and that he wanted to know about, he asked me two questions. He asked me about the event, asked me who she was, and I told her, of my family connection with her, and that he could, and he also wanted to know about Sarmizegetusa. He'd very much like to go there. Now, he also in the past was very fascinated by the fact that I'd gone to Choklavina Cave which is not far from Sarmizegetusa as the crow flies. It's all part of this gold area, and it's a huge cave where there's a lot of bat guano that is now off limits because they don't like you taking the bat guano because it's very expensive. It can be used in explosives and to grow crops such as marijuana.
Right.
Since the marijuana craze, people now really want that bat guano. So in any case, the cave is and he revealed this in the lecture. He said it is the site, he had already said this, but he revealed a little bit more about this. He said the site of one of the largest space-time motive force impulse discharges on this planet. So in other words,
say that one more time. You kind of went right over my head.
Chaklavina Cave is evidence of the largest evidence of a time reactor or space-time motive force discharging on the planet. He said that they have also identified other sites, which he never revealed that before. But he said Chaklavina is by far the most consistent. Now that totally coincides with the book, The Secret Parchment, that Radu Sinamar had said, where there was this golden bed, which said this is where the worlds unite. And it goes hand in hand with the gold that's under there. And also, he describes a vortex that is in this area around these huge golden thrones with golden carvings of information on them. So this is all part of that book, but you see, David's scientific research is not only combining with Radu's stories, which are more, I guess what you'd say, a little more legendary, you know? It may be true, but they sound like legend. And they also coincide with my personal adventures there. So it's as if I'm integrating all of this stuff.
Very interesting. I can even feel the shift in you since probably, I don't know if it's been a year since we did, maybe 6 months since we did a show, but I can feel the kind of integration in you.
It's been too long. And he described Chaklavina Cave as ground zero.
So Peter, could you hold that thought just 1 second?
Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so we have a very interesting, I guess what you call association of streams of consciousness surfacing. And the Agartha World Symposium brought everything together because, as I said, when she asked me to speak, I thought, okay, I will drive them to the hotel, I will do my part, I will go home, I will pick them up when the event is over. This is the way I thought in my own mind. It wasn't that I didn't want to participate, it was just, you know, I have things to do. Before they came, I was all involved in preparing their arrival with my wife. And that included making a banner for the event. So I got all swept into the energy of the event. I was there the entire time. So what was beautiful about the event is that there were people who came who had been part of my past journeys to Romania. This was very special because I'd taken many sacred journeys in Romania, and here I had the continuance of the sacred journey by people resurfacing in my life and us continuing the journey. So this was great energy, but what was remarkable about the event itself, well, it sort of started out with a meditative music being played to open the energy, and then I would talk about all of my adventures with a slideshow of all my adventures with the Solomonari and how this symbolized the Solomonari. You see, wow. Tamarinda represents the inner earth and the energies of the inner earth. You don't have to think of her going into the inner earth, although you can, but she lives this energy. And I had recognized my brother-in-law, who is now a Tibetan monk, and he gave a very fascinating lecture on his experience of initiation and what he has learned. I thought it was the best lecture of the entire event. including my own and David's. Because
does the Tibetan stuff kind of coalesce with the Agartha?
totally. Well, see, Tibetans are totally into Agartha.
Absolutely.
Totally.
Right.
Totally. I mean, you know, completely and utterly.
I don't know how many people know that, but yeah, I was thinking that that would be a...
Oh, yeah. So anyway, this was a congregation of people who were interested and came from there were 15 different countries represented there, from South America to Australia, New Zealand, Japan, China, Europe. It was fantastic. So even Africa, but it was just an incredible event. Now, one person who goes to a lot of these conferences said he'd never seen anything like this. It was very unique. So you had me telling the story of where she comes from and who she is, and then you have her talking, and then the next day, David Anderson appeared via Skype, and he talked, and I was asking him very precise questions, including, you know, the fact that he alluded in my private conversations that I'd be able to see the time reactor someday, and he said, "I think we're getting closer to that day."
Nice.
You know? And I learned that he's under.
I love the part about bending time. That to me just grabbed my imagination and things that I've experienced.
Well, yeah. So this is all unfolding, and I also realized that he's under a lot more non-disclosure than I thought he might, because he mentioned that several times. Now, on the third day, Duncan Cameron from the Montauk project showed up in the morning, much to my surprise. He showed up because he had learned about the event, was invited to be a speaker. I think he was supposed to come at 5 p.m., an hour before it would cut off. But I was not even aware of this. He showed up at 9 a.m. and he spent the whole day, and he talked in the afternoon, and people wanted to keep hearing him. So this was as Tamarinda said, a closure of the Montauk and Philadelphia experiments, and was to result in a new era. So we are now, she did invite David. She says, would you like to, when are you going to do this again? And he says, name the time and the place. So I have suggested Prague, in Czechoslovakia, which is a whole other reason for that, which we can go into. And she also invited Duncan to come to Romania, which he accepted. That's a verbal acceptance, you know. And I thought it was very curious if Duncan could be in the vicinity of the Great Gold in Choklavina Cave because of the zero time reference. So this was like and then we went off and saw Preston 2 days ago, and well, that was an experience. So she kind of did the full gambit from Montauk to Duncan to Preston to, you know, back to Romania. And so I'm already got my wheels spinning for Prague. I have my own rationale about Prague. She's been to the Czech Republic more than once and been very popular. Not in Prague per se.
That makes sense, yes.
But, you know, I'm hoping that we can do Prague and then Romania all in the same trip.
I would imagine that many people in that region probably will have stirrings about this kind of knowing and information. Peter, you are such a magnificent storyteller, and I know we could just sit for hours. We're coming to the end of what I need to do for this recording, and I'm thinking we should go ahead and jump in and do part 2 because you have so much to share. You're such a great storyteller. I want to encourage anyone who would like to know more about these characters that you're talking about, who are very real people, revealing to us very real ancient cosmology that is going to have an effect on where we go in the future. Please check out Peter's books, and that's it. Is it at skybooks.com? Is that correct?
Skybooksusa.com.
Skybooks.usa.com. And I will have that.
And the TimeTravelEducationCenter.com.
Correct. And I will have those under the videos so people can access you. Reading your books is such an amazing journey. Most of them are relatively, you know, they're not super long. They really go into the details of this. And I think you open up to a whole new kind of awareness of things in our world that Peter's been quietly disseminating for a number of years. Very, very, very good stuff. So why don't we bring this to a close? And I'd love to hear, I know our listeners would love to hear more about Agartha, Tamarinda, how all this ties in together, and what was revealed in New York. So shall we do that and do a part 2 here?
Sure.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Ciao, everyone. Remember to breathe and smile. And that will shift your entire neurobiology and help you step into your greater self. And we'll see you in part 2. Same title, same show.